Good morning, everyone. I'm Jen Nenadove, and my partner Calvin Nurge is the other one on camera here.
Hi.
We are excited to just spend a few minutes with you this morning talking about how a business can take control of their data. As we think about some common problems and challenges that we see is that when businesses are trying to bring their regular reporting together, it's very onerous. Systems aren't talking to each other. They've got to do regular cleansing and sanity checks in order to produce, whether it's weekly, monthly, quarterly reporting. And so they're just spending a lot of time just in the gathering of the data. And systems, not only are they not necessarily talking to each other, sometimes they could be producing conflicting data, and identifying the source of truth between systems is something that businesses sooner or later will have to deal with. And then just unsure how to distribute the data. There's different views for different levels in the organization, different functions in the organization, and that in and of itself can be a challenge. Calvin's going to take us through these three topics here of how to gather data. Oftentimes, as business leaders, we're still doing a lot in Excel, even if we've got software to do things. We're doing quite a bit in Excel, and then showcasing a dashboard in a demo environment for you, and then just how to use dashboards to really transform your decision making.
Yeah, thanks, Jen. I'm really excited to put a little demo together for you guys today. I'm using a tool called Power BI. It's Microsoft's business intelligence tool, and it's a really powerful tool. It's one that we have a lot of experience in, but it's not the only one that we use to perform some data analytics for our clients. But I think it's accessible to a lot of people. They've maybe heard of like Power BI before and know that it's part of the Microsoft suite of products. So it's pretty simple to use tool, easy to implement, and easy to get going within your organization if you guys have an O365 account. But some of the benefits of moving away from Excel spreadsheets as your core function of reporting is that you eliminate like a business intelligence tool can really at its base gather data from disparate sources, pull it together, and visualize it the same way that you might do something like that in Excel. And so using a business intelligence tool, what you do is you end up automating a lot of the transformations and formulas and potentially macros that take time to implement every single month, every single week, every single quarter when you're pulling together your regular reporting. It really eliminates the complexity of having to go to, this tool here to export this file and drop it in this location, and this tool here to export this file and drop it in this location. If you guys have any experience doing that, raise your hand in the chat. It's pretty common business practice. The other benefit of a BI tool is that oftentimes if you build these connections and transformations one time, you can access data that you want to use to manage your business a lot more frequently. And so where it would take time to pull a report potentially weekly that you use monthly, all of that becomes completely automated and is in a snap, and you can have data at your fingertips as soon as it's being generated in your source systems. The other thing that's really helpful about using a business intelligence tool versus a tool like Excel is that oftentimes folks are sharing the same Excel file across a network drive or a SharePoint location. Someone can delete a cell or delete a row of information or a tab or a file, or break references to other folders and files, and that makes for a really clunky experience. If you perform a little bit of work to really structure your data and add some security parameters around it using a business intelligence tool, what you can do is you can pretty cohesively separate the people who need to use a particular Excel file for the analysis purposes and take action on it versus those who need to be kind of like updating it. So you can add a layer of security on top of it. Also, business intelligence tools are really great at visualizing their data in a much more customizable way. So if you're somebody who engages with more custom visual reports to your organization, you really the world is your oyster with respect to a business intelligence tool. There's a lot of really cool features that you can leverage in it. And the last thing too is that it takes time to conjure these reports that you would be using to manage your business. And sometimes people are maybe not necessarily proficient in Excel, don't want to be using Excel as a core function of their day. And so if you can eliminate that work and that headache potentially on somebody to have to pull reports together and spend all that time, you can position them to be doing the job that they were more likely hired to do, which would be analyzing the data or taking information from the data and putting it into action. And so right now I'm going to take a quick break and I'm going to switch to showing you a Power BI demo dashboard that I've put together. I want you guys to feel free to interrupt me and ask any questions that you might have about Power BI, business intelligence more broadly, features and functionalities that you've heard of or not. Like, please feel free to jump in and ask any questions as I kind of navigate some feature usage of a demo dashboard that I put together. This is a pretty simple dashboard that I put together for a fictional company, and I use completely fictional data sets. I really took sources. I really emulated three common sources that any business may have of a certain size. One would be a CRM tool where you're maybe storing your customer information about, where they are, the type of products they purchase from you, or the services they purchase from you, and other things related to your client segmentation. I also pulled in a fake accounting data set to do accounts payable, accounts receivable, so you could see things like revenue and ACV and manage your business that way. And then another common tool that businesses use would be an HCM tool, or really like a place in which you're administering payroll and you have a full accounting of the people who comprise your organization. And so those are examples of three disparate data sources. Depending on the tool that your organization uses, it might have native reporting in your CRM or in your HCM or in your accounting tool, but none of them are really designed to be mixed together and provide reporting like what I'm sort of visualizing right now. This is a quick executive reporting dashboard that I put together, and it's really just designed to be kind of printer friendly and show you a brief view of your business, some high level metrics that might be important that would leverage data points from each of these three locations that I talked about right here. One of the really neat things about a tool like Power BI is that what you can do is you can build the metric for one particular period of time, but then add the ability to sort of like change the year or whatever frequency period you want to in order to, analyze and see like how performance has changed over a particular period of time. So it's really simple to layer on. If you're familiar with filters or slicers with respect to pivot tables in Excel, this functions almost exactly the same way, in which you're able to pick a period of time. I've chosen to aggregate this information by the year, but we could get as granular as the day if that's what your data set has available to it. And then other things that you can do is there's additional segmentations that you can layer on top of it. And so if we wanted to filter this data set to maybe a customer segmentation, like customers who are in the manufacturing space, you can see that all of the metrics go and adjust based on the selections that you've made within your data set. So once again, this is one page that's designed to be only a little bit interactive. These are just sort of high level metrics for your business to judge, but you can see I'm pulling data from probably multiple different data sets that your business would have access to and would be generating data on. Flat numbers are helpful. They're good. They're a good like snapshot for something. People are more visual creatures though, and if you want to like get in and really hone in on some of the data, some of the great features of a business intelligence tool would be to take those years and then trend them over time and see like, okay, well, right now I've chosen a metric of head count and I want to see whether or not head count is going up or down over time. So you can see some top line metrics right here. This fictional company is growing. Additionally, termination data, that would be another thing where you could see if terminations are are going up and down. And so you have the ability to sort of set a visual, in this case, a bar chart, but there's any number of different visuals that you would have at your disposal. And you can pick which metric you want to have displayed on there. And so a lot of these you'll recognize from previous slide right here, where if you wanted to see, what is the annualized contract value or potentially revenue per employee by different segmentations that you have on here, you can very quickly change what is the legend on the chart and visualize the metric that is important to you. So this example here, I'm pulling in people data with respect to the business that we're in. Are they somebody who clocks into the office from headquarters, or are they a remote worker? And you're assessing whether or not those employees are more or less profitable. Similarly, you have different department segmentations right here, where if you wanted to see how many terminations by department, I've now changed the legend to display the department and showed the number of terminations over time. And then yes, so same data points right here with respect to revenue retention. Are there specific markets or industries that are performing better? All of this data is fictional, so it's not going to hold up to a ton of scrutiny. But this would be a way that you could interact with the data. And then similarly, you can toggle away the visual, and you can be looking at your actual head count metrics in a tabular version too. So a way to sort of, if you want to just see the supporting details and potentially add more cross sections on top of this data, there's ways that you can say, all right, well, who in IT, and also is in a particular state or something like that, or belongs to a particular client segmentation, ways that you could sort of group and slice and see trends at even the more microscopic level. So I'll stop there. Does anybody have any questions about Power BI dashboard, the features of dashboards, the pros and cons with respect to using a tool like Power BI to, automate, visualize, streamline?
As Calvin was showing here, try to use a fairly practical example of 3 different source systems that would translate to any business. And what it allows you to do is just really quickly move from one metric to another, or one type of segmentation to another, where in Excel that would just be, navigating rows and columns and tabs and whatnot. This is a lot more fluid for the end user, albeit it does take a little bit to get used to. And making sure that the filters and the segmentation meet, the end user's desire.
There's probably a shared experience on this call too of pulling ad hoc reporting, and a business intelligence tool is like a great way to curb or eliminate the labor that exists with respect to ad hoc reporting, where it's like, oh, I've got this question about the business, but I got to put it on somebody's project backlog. In this way, what you're doing is you're providing a tool to your business in which they can potentially self-service some questions that they have about the operations, and not necessarily need it to flow through an IT department or an analytics department, because you've really published what the values are and given somebody a tool to answer questions about a part of the business that they're probably the most knowledgeable about.
That's right. And another value to dashboards in general is it just allows, instead of individuals spending all their time gathering the data, I can think of a handful of different businesses that I formerly worked at, and just bringing together the regular reporting sometimes took weeks. I'm hearing of some businesses doing their monthly close in just a couple days, but I would say a majority of companies are taking weeks to pull together, the prior month's performance or the prior quarter's performance. And then you're leaving yourself just hours maybe, or one day, to sort of look at the trend and go, oh, why did we go down here? Why did this go up? To be ready to speak to that, to whether it's the executive committee or your team or something like that. This type of tool allows you to spend a lot more time digging into the insights and providing that commentary and the story behind what's going on in the business, versus just bringing the data together and making sure that it's accurate. So decision making is a huge component here, because myself, like I can, Calvin, if you would navigate for me since you're sharing your screen,
Sure.
but go to revenue retention and just select no segmentation, that the top thing, and you can see year over year, retention is going up, but that's likely because we're viewing this as a cohort. And so naturally, I would look at this and go, why in 2023 is that like sort of the lowest cohort? Like what happened in 2023? And maybe if you dig back into that, you could see, all sorts of reasons. Maybe there were product issues, maybe there were, um, you know, we sold outside of our sweet spot, maybe to some larger organizations or what have you. But this is a very simple view to see that 2023 slightly stands out compared to the other years, in something like that. So decision making is something that is just much more forward, in that it can jump off the page in a tool like this.
Yeah, I'm just going to ask a question, and I apologize if I missed this, but does this also apply for like industry specific type of software programs? Like we use one specific program where we track inventory, invoicing, that type of thing, and it's just for our industry. It's not something that's shared by others.
Yeah. What's great, we were talking about Excel at the top of this meeting and how like a lot of people are storing processes in Excel. But what's really great about Power BI in particular, I'll demonstrate right now, is that it does have a lot of out of the box connectors to go directly into your data set. So if we're talking about like QuickBooks, there is a connector directly into your QuickBooks Online account, if that's something that you have. A lot of people probably use Salesforce as an option on here, so you can connect directly into your Salesforce, pull the data down, and all of a sudden, if you've got some linkage with respect to a client ID who appears on an invoice in your QuickBooks and a client ID who appears on an account record in Salesforce, this could be two examples in which like you have at your fingertips really like the ability to connect those two data sets within this tool. And you don't have to do any exporting at all. You're really just leveraging your credentials. I'm trying to think, some other popular ones would be like Google Sheets. Potentially folks are using Google Sheets. If your business is a larger organization, you can connect directly to a data warehouse like Snowflake. That's on here. There's a number of different out-of-the-box connectors. And then even if there's not necessarily an out-of-the-box connector, there's a bunch of ways that you can sort of creatively get the data that doesn't involve going to somewhere, pulling down an export, saving it into a location, and then performing your analysis. And that's something that's a service offering that we help with at End Solutions, is like how to best access the data that your folks are generating really on a daily basis through just simply operating in the tools that they operate in.
But Joe, you kind of tee us up for really the next few minutes here, which is really steps to get you moving in a data-driven direction. And really, so it's like, what questions are you trying to answer about your business? Either you're regularly answering them today, or maybe you foresee that in the future you're going to start to have to answer a particular question, like, how do we incorporate AI? How is that changing our business? Like, there might be new questions you're starting to wrestle with, but once you know the questions, then identifying the source of truth. So Joe, that could be an industry specific tool. It could be something that works across industries. The first thing is like, okay, where are we getting our data? What's considered the source of truth for the customer, for, our accounts receivable, for whatever it is, payroll, whatever the data is that you want to be able to measure. And then what are those metrics? So we, Calvin displayed an executive dashboard. We tried to pick 6 common metrics, but that's going to be different business to business. What are the things you're tracking? Is it retention? Is it employee attrition? Is it NPS scores, so net promoter scores? Like, what is it that you're tracking in your business? And then establish your current baseline. Like, you can only know if you're getting better if you know where you are right now, and then utilize something like Power BI, but any business intelligence tool really, to track performance. And you can track that against a target. So we just started a new year. I'm assuming most of us probably have a target for this year, whether it's of revenue or new clients or all sorts of different things that we want to try to maintain this year. Use a tool, consider using a BI tool to help track that performance against that target, and against last month, against this month, last year. You can view it in all sorts of different ways. But these are just a few simple steps. They sound simple, but there's quite a bit of work probably to do there. But this is just to get your thoughts started in the right direction. It's always going to be harder the longer that you wait. So, we recommend digging in, and even if it's attacking one key system or two key systems and not boiling the ocean.
Yeah, Jen, Calvin, this is Adam. Wanted to ask a little bit about the time frame that you guys are on certain engagements. I know each scope of work can, be different in any situation, but with what you guys are doing for your clients, what is an expected time frame?
So, Adam, thank you for that question. Typically, like, we spend some time up front doing discovery with a client. If we know we've met and yes, there's a need, they need some help, we spend probably 2 to 3 weeks just doing some discovery work, which is digging into what systems or software are you using and that you want data from. And then from that discovery phase, we would come back with a set of recommendations to move to an execution phase. So that might be, hey, business XYZ wants an executive dashboard. We're doing a new project right now for a manufacturing business. They identified their main systems, and we got to see how users are pulling reporting today. And then that allows us to come back in that discovery phase with a better timeline. But I would say typically our timelines are anywhere from 6 to 12 weeks. And the complexity is really what feeds that timeline. So are we talking about 1 or 2 systems, or are we talking about 7 or 8 systems that you want incorporated? So that builds into the timeline. Last point on that, I will say, is while it may take 6 to 12 weeks on average to deliver an end product, along the way we're delivering beta version of the dashboard that the business leader or their team is speaking into. So it's an iterative process. You get an early view of that and can speak into it and say, you know what, I forgot to mention, but I'd like this segmentation to be added, and really get hands-on earlier in that process.
Yeah, I think that's one of the beautiful things about the work that we do, is that oftentimes we'll present to a client maybe a new dashboard or a first look at a dashboard, and like access to your data to sort of see it will prompt you to ask new questions about your business and say, oh, well, can we look at it this way? And can we add this in? And how will we do that? And it's really fun to sort of show a dashboard for one of the first times to people, get them kind of interacting with their data. And then we like to develop relationships with our clients in which, we're then continuing to support and develop the dashboard to their customization, because, even though it may take us 6 to 12 weeks to fully put a bow on a dashboard, 3 to 4 months from now, you could be prompted with a question about your business that you want data to answer. And we may be already tapped into the resource and we just had never thought about it before. But those are usually pretty simple adjustments for us to add new layers and new complexity into the content that we provide. And so these end up being kind of living, breathing relationships where we really look to grow and seek to work with your organization and get the data to answer the questions that you guys have throughout the life of your company, not just through the length of our engagement.
Any other questions? Just a couple minutes left here. If not, that's fine too. If you think of something outside of this webinar, feel free to shoot either one of us an email. Hopefully we're connected on LinkedIn, but my email is simple. It's jn@nsolutionsllc.com. Would love to connect with you afterwards. But thanks for your time today. Appreciate you guys joining.
Thanks, everyone.
Enjoy the sunny day in Northeast Ohio.